I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yeah.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very first episode of the CRU Podcast, a place where we are creating a voice for enthusiasts. Welcome. Today we have good friends Alex and part of the CRU team, Rylan.
Glad to be here.
What's up?
Welcome, guys. First episode. You pumped?
I definitely am. Yeah. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, but you've been waiting. You only had
All morning.
You only had a couple hours sleep after the car
Only a
situation.
couple hours. No, I had my oil pan got decimated yesterday. Yeah.
I did read that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I have a picture. I'm just in the car with it being towed. There's like a massive crowd around me. So it was such an awesome picture.
Yeah. How many people saw it happen?
Oh, it was right in the middle of the meet. There were so many people there. It's one of those like end of summer meets. So,
End of summer. Oh, yeah.
Obviously, everyone's out there. Had maybe about 50, 60, 70 people there. Just
So real quick on this topic, what did you hit?
nothing. It was just it was a road. I'm thinking there was a dip in the road, so like it was like a bump, but the other way. So
Yeah.
it goes
Did
down.
the car go down and bottom
The
out,
car.
or-
So what happened was the car was going straight, and then it went down in the dip, and then it tried to go back up, but but because it already went down in the dip, by the time it went back up, the oil pan it rammed the oil pan.
Oh.
I actually.
So it actually broke it
I have
up.
a picture here if you're curious. But
We're gonna clip the picture and circle and
that's a
see
good- yeah.
real
Share
quick.
some time.
Well,
That's
just explain the car model and how low the car is.
It's a few inches off the ground. Probably good to paste a picture as well for context there.
Yeah.
Just assume, yeah.
Well, I'll hook everybody up with a picture of that one. Obviously, we know how it feels. The AMG is down still.
I'm just really
we had
glad
the massive leak.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that everyone came together at the end. Like it really made my night just
Yeah.
seeing all the enthusiasts come around.
That's what it's about. That's what CRU's about, right?
Of course.
It's
yeah.
a community aspect. Like when mine happened, we were in Vernon. You know, we had 6, 7 of our friends stopped with us 5 o'clock in the morning. We sat there for 4.5 hours while we tried to get this stupid car on a tow truck. And they stayed, you know, they missed the drive rally out to the Driven show. At the same time, they didn't get pulled over with the other 35 cars because they waited with me. So
Hey.
everybody, you're still welcome over that. No VIs for them.
That's good. Yeah.
And then Stefan, you know, good friend of ours. Sadly, another AMG. Don't hate on AMGs. It's just unfortunate circumstances. But, you know, he had the big blow up happen and he had a bunch of people in front of the PNE helping him getting it sorted out. So it's all about community. You help each other.
For sure.
We're going to go to a specific topic right off that Vernon Drive where everybody got pulled over going to Alberta. There's a big issue going on right now with those of you that may not know, but we're up in BC, Canada. There's a current situation going on with some of the police departments. We're going to talk specifically about the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, federal police, and one of the specific officers that, you know, has been causing an issue in one of the cities is in the city of Surrey, BC. For those of you that don't know, his name is Hermes. We're just going to talk about that situation. That's the hot topic right now. Everyone wants to know what we're thinking. I've had a whole ton of messages, videos sent to our CRU page asking, Rav, can you share this? Can you get support out there? And I'm like, you know what? Absolutely. For those of you that don't know my background, I was with the RCMP back in 2011, 2012, before we launched my marketing firm. And I was answering the 911 calls, going into dispatch, helping out on that side. And I enjoyed the position. It's a part of community giving back. Helping out the city of Surrey and White Rock it was. And I was thinking of going into policing until I realized I'm not really somebody that listens to that direction too well. I realized I had to do my own company. I couldn't do what I was told to do. And to be honest, my staff sergeant at the time even told me, Rav, you're not right for this. You're too gray. It's like you're too gray area. You need to be black and white. And I was like, I need to know everything involved to make a decision, man. He's like, that's why you're not going to make it, because they failed me twice. But, well, everything happens for a reason, guys. So with this Hermes situation, either of you have direct experience with this one officer?
I have not. No.
I don't.
No.
Not like a personal. Like haven't had anything like directly with him, but yeah, seen the videos.
I think we've all seen the videos. If you haven't seen it, we'll have links to it below of some of the unfortunate circumstances that have happened. But with this officer, you know, it's kind of part and part that goes with the enthusiast scene. You know, he seems to be one of the more aggressive ones. But we've all had our run-ins with a modded car. Your car, the one that just broke down, and obviously the M2 out there.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. What's your experience level with policing and being judged on the road?
I've been pulled over more times than I've been ticketed, to say the least. So I'm out there just minding my own business, and then I get a cop just, I've been pulled over for going the speed limit because they think you have something to hide. That's how you know it's messed up. They will pull you over because if you're going 50 at nighttime and you're the only one on the road, no one goes 50 in that circumstance. You got to be drunk, right? Like it's happened to so many people I know. Like you get pulled over for doing the speed limit. You're driving on the freeway. You see it's a bit off topic, but you see like trucks that say this truck never exceeds posted limits, and you're like, the fact that you need a warning there to not piss people off is kind of back to the subject. I've been pulled over for excessive speed once.
Yeah.
I could talk more about that afterwards, but as just a summary, it was that few times being pulled over. Not really sure why. I've been let go most of the time, though. So, yeah.
Rylan, how about yourself? You got the modified BMW, but you said you got pulled over in your Sunfire.
Yeah, out of Pontiac Sunfire.
The Sunfire is a daily driver, by the way.
In high school. I don't know if it looked bad or something. I mean, I was a little more reckless, but my encounters when I did have them, when I got pulled over and stuff, to be honest, they were pretty civil considering, flying, going fast and stuff. In the 335i, I got pulled over once, and I was picking up Mel from the lake, and they had a couple of drinks, and he was kind of understood, but yeah, same sort of thing, just, I don't know, doing his job, but at the same time making it a bigger deal than it could be, so I was trying to do the right thing, but yeah, that's about it, to be honest.
Well, we have, obviously myself, and we have a few stories there. I have a lot stories. And this is where we'll kind of get to with some of the potential, I'll say potential, we'll keep it, because I don't know for sure, but there seems to be a lot of racial profiling that is going on with Hermes and some other policing departments in general. And stereotypes would be the key, back in, I'll give one example. I used to drive the 350Z Veilside show car, bright orange, wide body, everything done to it. But I drove the speed limit because I was very protective over that car hitting a bump and breaking something. Because I was young at that point too. I put all my money into that car, so I didn't have money to fix that car. If that broke, I was done. And I was like, great, now I need to get another job for 3 months to pay for it. So I wasn't prepared to have anything happen. So I was driving, and I those of you that know me, I don't really drink alcohol, maybe a couple of times a year. That's about it. So I was driving from Richmond through the Massey Tunnel. I accelerated through the tunnel. It's a tunnel. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no one there. I want to hear the pops and bangs, just like everyone else. Hey, there's nobody around.
Same thing.
But I knew coming out of the tunnel was a little bit of construction, so I didn't want to bend a rim on the aggressive little bump. So I slowed down to 80, went over the bump, and then went to cruise on the highway because I had about an hour drive home. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was tired. Mm-hmm. And there was a police car ahead of me. I noticed it from a mile away. I see the little reflectors, and I'm like, I got nothing to hide. I'm just cruising. Hits the brakes and comes behind me and pulls me over. And I'm sitting there like, all right, that was a little bit strange. Comes to my passenger window, opens it. Open my passenger window. He comes over. I've got the papers in hand. He looks inside. It just has a little look up and down me, and I'm like, okay, it's a little strange, but I'm like, all right, hey officer, this is before obviously I was involved with the RCMP. I didn't work with them back here. This is like 2007. And he proceeds to ask me or tell me I was speeding, doing 120. This is before I really understood how the car's radar works and police cars, traffic police. I didn't know anything about that side. Very uneducated, didn't really feel like I needed to educate myself on how they can track your speed. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, officer, I believe I was doing about 80 coming out because there's a bit of a construction zone and I don't race my car. I'm very protective over it. He's like, well, you were. And he's like, license and registration. And I was like, okay, here you go. Like, I'm not a rude guy. I was like, here you go. And he was like, have you had anything to drink tonight? And I was like, no. And he's like, there's not a drop of alcohol in your body right now. And I was like, no. And he proceeded to push me even more and say, if I pulled you out for a test right now, you're telling me that it would show 0 on the detector. And I was like, yeah. I was like, sir, I don't drink. And he was like, okay. When was the last time you had a ticket? I took offense to that one because I was like, you're just assuming.
that you have a couple tickets.
He runs your plate. Can he see like
He can see it all. He hasn't run, or apparently he hasn't run my plate at this point.
Okay.
Usually they would run it when they're sitting behind you and then come over, but apparently he hasn't run it yet.
Okay.
And that's what told me. I was like, okay. And I said, I've never had a ticket before. He said, you've never had a speeding ticket before. And I was like, actually, no. I was like, I've had no ensign show before, but nothing for an actual infraction. And he was like, while you've had your license driving this car in BC, you're telling me you've never had a speeding ticket? Because I'm going to find out in a second. And I looked at him a little bit puzzled with all the questions. And I was like, sir, and I say sir, you know, I want to be respectful. And I'm like, sir, no, I've never had a ticket. She was like, okay, I'll be right back. And he leaves. So I put the window up because it started to rain now. Knocks on my driver's side window now because it was the highway. He's on the shoulder side. And he's like, do you mind if I ask you to breathe on me? And I paused and I was like, I don't know about this. So I was like, hopefully that caught. I don't know if that caught it on the mic. But he was like, okay. And he leaves, goes, runs the place, sees everything is clean. Took about 25, 30 minutes. It was pouring rain, which I didn't want the car sitting in the rain with the vents in the hood. And I was like, this isn't too comfortable for me. He comes back and he's like, all right, record came back clean. Appreciate you stopping, being honest. Be on your way. Compliments the car. He's like, you have a lovely car here. The tires are really wide, so be careful on the rain. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I leave. I've had quite a few situations like that with the as soon as they come and see who I am in the car, what I look like, I guess. It's not like I'm a celebrity or anything, but the constant assumptions. And I've had people in my passenger seat comment back to me when we've been pulled over, be like, I've never had that happen before. That was aggressive. And I'm like, really? It's quite normal, actually. Crossing the border has been the same thing. You know, I went over the border in that car 11 times. 9 times I was searched. 9 times. They can see how many times I've been over. You know, I joke about it with one of the CBSA guards because I saw him on 3 different occasions and he was like, you're back. He was like, I love the car. How's it doing? And I was like, it's cool, man. Go search it. And he's like, I don't search it. It's them, but I'll take the keys. And then he's standing there taking pictures. I'm inside. I'm like, all right, I made a friend apparently. And the worst, I was there for 3.5 hours being searched, and I was like, I don't quite understand. So there is a large portion of racial profiling with this Hermes guy. I've seen the videos against East Indian youth. I think that last one, they're threatening deportation to them.
I saw a bunch of comments on that.
Yeah, well, I saw the latest update I saw was they're threatening deportation because I think it was 14, 15 guys in the parking lot weren't happy at the ticket they were given, so they asked for his badge number. It shows in the video.
Blocking the car, yeah.
Didn't he say no?
He said no.
He said no. Are you allowed to do that? I don't know.
No, thank you, or something. Yeah, no, you're definitely not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I saw that. The part that I really took offense to is he walked up to the door and he was talking to Hermes. Hermes grabbed a paper and just chucked it at his face and jumped in the car. And I was like, man, that's, it doesn't matter what the situation was. You don't need to do that level. It didn't look like anybody was being aggressive at that point. They were talking to him at the door, and then he launched a piece of paper at his face and left. This is what causes divide, right? This causes divide out of anybody that has a nice car who's driving and sees a police car. They're just waiting to be pulled over now. Mm-hmm. And they're waiting for the super negative interaction. I remember when I lived in Cloverdale, part of Surrey, I drove when I had the AMG, knew it was lowered with just the wheels on it, but I got followed by undercover Camry. And I started accelerating a little bit over the speed limit, so he pulled me over. It was the lights came on a Toyota Camry, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Pulled me over and got out of the car. He's like, do you know how fast you're going? And I was like, it's doing like 100, isn't it? In a 60 zone. He was like, I understand the road's quiet, but do you want to know how come I started following you? Because I was going the other way. And I turned around. And I was like, oh. And here I'm waiting to be like, here we go again. This isn't cool. And he was like, I like the car, man. He was like, I'm an Audi guy. I have an S4, and I saw the AMG lowered. I don't get to see too many of these. They're brand new still. I just wanted to follow it for a second to see what it looked like, and then you just started accelerating. So we joked about it. He was like, I'm not giving you a ticket, man. I'll run your plate. If you've had no tickets before, just drive slower and be on your way. That type of interaction, I appreciate it. I was like, listen, I understand I sped. I'll keep it down, which I did. I had the warning. He saw I've never had a ticket before. And to this day, I've never actually had a speeding ticket. I've never been pulled over for that.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I think that a big part of it is the whole no harm, no foul thing. It depends on the cop and the case-by-case basis, but for sure. And something like that, you're definitely not causing that much damage to people around you. Like it's not really...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, in that parking lot with Hermes, they're having a little meet.
Yeah.
As
They're just having a good time, and then it just shows up.
As far as I'm aware, nobody was doing burnouts, revving the car. I think somebody had loud music playing. I think that was the big thing, right? They had loud music playing.
But it's in
a complex. In a parking lot. I'm sorry, there were no houses there.
The claim I heard, I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but the claim I heard was that the guy was driving around like the same area for 3.5 hours playing his music. So he was going around the block over and over.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard.
Okay. So it wasn't just a parking lot then.
To my knowledge, no, but again, I could be wrong on that.
So let's play out that scenario. Mm-hmm. Let's say that's true. And somebody calls a noise disturbance. Obviously, when I worked at the RCMP, we've had calls like that. You put up a call. It's happening right now, so an officer is pretty much going to be dispatched whenever it's available to go ask them to turn it off and keep it down. There's no ticket that's given. Mm-hmm. It is a ticketable offense, but it's like, hey man, do you mind keeping it down? The amount of house parties in Surrey.
You could get like excessive noise if you really tried, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like if they had to come out twice.
Or like if the cop's just having a bad day, like it's happened sometimes.
Yeah. So like the amount of East Indian weddings lighting up a block with a huge party in the backyard and people complain, weren't even tickets for those events. It's like, listen, they're celebrating, we'll ask them to keep it down after 10 o'clock. And then that was basically it. Somebody playing music, what I've usually experienced is they'll come out, ask them to keep it down. This, with Hermes, he was only sent out one time. There was no repeat offense. And it turned into this massive situation of people, being so upset at him, wanting to fight him because of how aggressive he was being. I don't believe any of these, and the other kids there knew who he was by face. They're like, oh, it's this guy again. We hate him. They were very disturbed at the interaction that happened.
That's a first time thing.
Yeah.
Of like him coming up. I feel like people match the energy too. Cause if he comes out all aggressive, right away you're gotta kind of match that.
I completely agree, man. Like if I'm talking to an officer and he's very upset and hyper at me, I'll probably be defensive back to him. I'm not exactly going to be usual rap with a smile. I mean, maybe I would be to settle him down, but the natural person is not going to be, right?
It just comes down to like the element of mutual respect in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that what's being harmed here?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. Mutual respect. Like, I know for myself, with all the interactions I've had, even though I've worked with policing, I was there for a few years, I know when I'm driving my car and I see a police car, at the light next to me or like a couple cars ahead, I'm wanting to take the left turn just so I don't risk him wanting to pull me over for something that doesn't make any sense. That's the feeling you get. Or if he's behind me, I'm catching him in the rear view and I'm watching hard to be like, you going to turn on the lights? I see you running the plates. I should be clean. But that's the point it's come to with Vancouver police and obviously RCMP and Delta with Hermes as well. If he pulls behind my car when I get it back on the road, I'm pretty much guaranteeing being pulled over and given a VI, box 1, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I had, you basically at this point you don't have a choice. It's either I say no and take off and they turn up to my house, or I accept my car being towed for no proper reason, get it thrown out in court, but now I've just had to go through all the towing expenses, which you don't get back. You still got to pay it all, and I lost my car.
Yeah. Unnecessary hassle.
I think the absolute worst part of all of it is that there's no official dispute process.
You go to
it
court,
happens and you're just kind of stuck with it.
You go to court, it's a year delay.
Yeah,
2 years delay.
And if
I don't even know.
There's people who just they're just driving their normal cars, or test drives. I've heard stories of people taking cars out on test drives. The cop goes and sticks like a decibel reader in his exhaust pipe,
or in the exhaust. It says rev it. Rev
it. Yeah. Just stick the meter in there, and then VI. It's not even his car. It's a dealer car. I've heard the stories about. I think Hermes actually. I heard this. Someone bought a new Hellcat. I don't know who this was, but I heard about it. He bought a new Hellcat, was driving it same day, obviously brand new, so there's no mods on it.
Yeah.
Gets a VI because the exhaust is too loud. It's modded.
He went to the
goes
dealership.
To the dealer. Yeah,
I heard that one. I heard that one.
My mic is out. Technical difficulties.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. So he goes to the dealer and it's stop selling other cars. I actually a week or two ago, I went to Porsche Center Langley, and I took a 911 out for a test drive just for fun, just something a buddy of me did for fun. And I was talking to the guy who was there, the dealer, because he was driving with us, and I was talking to him about this. I was talking to him about cops that literally show up to dealerships. He gets emails from, there's people in the police departments who send out emails to dealerships, like whenever anyone complains that like a house near a dealership gets rev passed. Like if someone blows down a road on like a test drive, those people complain every time. So like
those are the fun neighbors.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no. So the cops will just show up to the dealership and harass them about like selling modded cars or letting XYZ crazy person test drive it, take it out on a joyride, excessive speed, whatever. Yeah. Being loud and annoying. So it's just kind of silly.
I guess we're going into the conversation of when is enough? Like what is, so that this specific Officer Hermes, it's not the only one. Sure, he's in the news right now. He's in the enthusiast scene as the name right now, but fast forward 2 months, it's going to be another person.
Yeah,
it's going to be
Kane was the old one.
The Vancouver police.
People are calling Hermes now just the Kane of Surrey. Like that's what they're calling him.
I mean,
it's going to keep going.
It is that. You got to understand. The way I think of it is, business sense. I'm like, all right, well, what's their goal? What's the goal of the police department? What's the goal of this officer? What is his job? What is his duty? Right now, the way it's going, his job is he likes giving modified cars tickets and towing them. Like what value? I guess that's what it is. What value is that officer bringing to the badge and to the community? If that's strictly what they're doing. And we're going to get into a realm of what is the point of traffic police if we go down this. Because I don't even know what Hermes' position actually is. Is he traffic police? Is he general duty?
He's a constable. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah, so I don't know what department he would be. If he's on calls or if he's just traffic. Integrated Road Safety Unit, URSU, that's the traffic police of basically Lower Mainland. They work with every detachment, specific unit for traffic, for trying their best to find people that are slightly speeding or they glanced at their cell phone or... They drank some water and they couldn't see the street properly.
Have you guys seen, there's this great video released 10, 15 years ago. I linked it in our group chat. It's called Speed Kills Your Pocketbook.
No.
It's basically a documentary. It's a great watch. I really do recommend it. It's about how essentially the speed limits are set up in a way to maximize revenue from tickets. Not so much to actually make the road safer, which is probably another subject we're talking about entirely.
Separately,
but
I think
it's a good watch.
I think that could be argued.
Yeah,
I've never thought about it from that perspective. That's a revenue generator.
Well, there's specific roads. There's specific roads.
Okay.
Certain specific roads in certain specific places.
Yeah.
Like Marine Drive is an example. Everyone there goes 70, 80 when it's not gridlocked.
What's the speed limit there? 50?
50. Yeah.
Kilometers an hour. Yes, by the way.
Yeah. Cops will sit
slow.
Cops will go out there, sit there, mount themselves up there the whole day with their radar guns, catching daytime commuters going 10 over. That's what everyone's doing. No one's crashing.
It used to be the line of
it's flow of traffic.
You keep up with traffic.
Yeah, there's been studies.
Everyone's just trying to rip around you, and that's more.
There's been studies proving that going the average speed in matching the flow of traffic is objectively safer than going slower or faster.
I think it was wasn't it last year or the year before?
85%.
Yeah, they started to give tickets and announce that if you're driving slow in the left lane, even if you're doing the speed limit, you're going to get a ticket if you're holding up traffic.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I believe that's fair.
I think that's fair.
The problem is that I believe that never gets enforced based on what
it was put on the news to enforce that way. They're not going to enforce it on the streets. But have you guys, Rylan, I'm not going to say you've never done it, but when was the last time you drove 50 on the speed limit down an open road?
Actually go
50.
See, no
last
one
night
no one
because
does
there's
it.
a cop following me.
Perfect timing. My point is, I've tried it. I've done it because I'll be driving the Tesla and the kids will be in the back just like, Dad, what's the speed limit? Trying to understand the roads and stuff, which, how we drive in the AMGs, a little bit quicker.
Especially modern cars nowadays.
Something
to realize is a lot of the limits were set 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, we'll get we got a topic to go through on that. You get with the times,
Cars and roads have gotten a lot better. I mean, I
don't know about the roads in BC.
Except the one that I hit,
No.
clearly. Compared to 40 years ago, I think there's some improvement.
No, but
marginal.
With going 50 honestly, you don't even feel like you're moving.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and especially I feel like there's like the stereotype of like, oh, the BMW's flying and stuff, but with expensive and modern cars, when you're going 100 or whatever that sweet number is, you feel comfortable
They're so
compared to
well
like a
built.
super old
Yeah.
car when you're like, it feels like you're flying going the same speed.
They're so like incredibly well built nowadays to where you literally don't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I'll say the example that I have for, I'll give an example that Mika ran into. Years ago, she drove it was a Chevy Malibu. Car was in good shape and everything, but when you drove it 100, 110, you felt like you were driving 110. You felt like you were actually going over the speed limit. Then we switched to the Mercedes GLC AMG we bought. We got that one. Obviously, brand new car, AMG, drives really well. And we're driving back from Kelowna. I was super tired from the evenings. We were driving back, and I was like, do you mind driving for a little bit? I just need a little bit of a rest. I wake up, she's doing 145, 150 down the Coquihalla. I wake up, I kind of look, I'm like, I notice the speed, she doesn't. We drive past a police car, and lights come on, and she looks down, and I'm like, you're driving a little quick there. She's like, I am? And she looked down in complete shock, like, I had no idea, like, it's so smooth.
Yeah.
And we're going slightly downhill, there's no
Yeah.
cars around, and she was like, okay, so we pull over, and officer comes over, female officer, talking to her, and this is where I'll say, a little bit of the racial profile comes in and benefit for my wife. And she's sitting there, comes over, has a very jolly conversation with the lady. And I'm sitting there like, it's a little strange. I felt like saying, it's my wife. I'm like, hey, remember, she was doing 40 over. You're not upset at this? So they have a little conversation. She does give a ticket for speeding for 10 over. And then 2 hours later, we actually get a message over Facebook from the officer apologizing for the ticket because she wrote something down wrong, said, hey, make sure you don't pay it, scrap it. I made a mistake on the ticket.
Oh,
I just wanted to find you on Facebook because I couldn't get your phone number. And we're reading it, and I'm like, I don't believe that would happen if it was me. I just don't-
Oh, it's fine.
I don't believe the friendliness would have come out the same way. But it goes with modern cars. She just didn't realize. The other day, a few weeks ago in the Tesla was the same thing. She was, got pulled over, got a warning, got a ticket for whatever it was, the no end sign on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Basic ticket, accept it.
Yeah.
She was speeding, but just didn't realize with the Model X how smooth it was, and it's capable of it, and it breaks for.
especially the EVs nowadays, for sure.
Yeah,
they're
it's-
so fast, just by nature.
It's like speed limits were introduced in what year? They haven't
Since
changed.
the 70s, 60s, it was a long time ago.
50s
for
or
sure.
something.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they haven't changed since. Like, I get it. There's still old
Here's-
cars on the
here's
road.
Here's an interesting random statistic I recall. I was thinking about this earlier, but it's about speed limits. Germany has parts of the Autobahn unrestricted, right?
I'm restricted. I've seen the Veyron runs.
Unrestricted. Yeah, so Autobahn has unrestricted speed limits in certain. I think it's like 29% of the Autobahn's unrestricted. Some figure like that.
Yeah.
There are, I think, there is a considerable less, there's a considerable amount less motor vehicle fatalities per capita
Yeah.
in Germany than in the U.S. and Canada per capita, despite having an unrestricted speed limit. I think a lot of that's just because of differences in how people drive in those places.
It's kind of like you look at in a different scene, Portugal and USA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made drugs legal in Portugal. No
Yeah,
issues
yeah.
anymore.
I guess like
USA, pretty sure there's a lot of issues. I want to going back to how aggressive police are to any car that's seen as modified. I've talked to enough people to know that if your car is modified, you're constantly worried about getting pulled over. Even if your car is street legal, it's perfectly fine. You maybe don't have the secondary cats. What is the big deal? Your car makes slightly more noise, no more than a very stock Hellcat that comes from the dealership or a Viper or whatever it is, or Ferrari. It doesn't matter.
There's a big point here. One really big gripe I have with this, especially the little bit louder thing, is there's no clear decibel figure in the MVA regulatory act that specifies it, how loud your car can be. Unlike in state of California, there's a certain it's 95 decibels, something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to reach over
an
100.
upper limit. No. But the words in it say essentially,
It's a gray area.
you're not allowed louder than what would be considered reasonable. The problem with that, I think these laws need to get a lot less subjective.
Yeah.
In order to be able to keep these officers accountable, we have to change the laws, I think.
Yeah.
For something like this, because like,
What's reasonable? What's reasonable?
Specific number figure. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head.
We had
but it's been implemented in many other places.
I think Officer Kane with the VPD was caught saying to someone, or sorry, no, it wasn't Kane, it was a judge. Sorry, a judge said to somebody who went in to dispute a couple of infractions they got from Officer Kane, and they were in court, and the judge said to them, well, you don't need this loud sports car. What do you need it for? Sorry, it was a gentleman with a Porsche. I remember that story now. He had a Porsche, and the judge said, well, what do you need this car for?
What does anyone need anything for? It's
well,
fun.
that's what it was.
It's
He's like, I bought it for myself. I wanted this sports car. That shouldn't be part of how come we're talking here.
Has the judge never heard of a hobby?
The judge very condescendingly
kind of
said,
a
"Well,
fun.
I drive a Prius, and you could drive something quieter as well. You don't need this car. You don't need it."
He's just annoyed
good
because
statement.
everyone's having fun just
this
blowing
is
past his house.
Well, that's what it turned into. But when you get to that point and you're going to court to say your case because you're like, this isn't right, and the judge is the one to say back to you, I agree with the officer. You can just drive a Prius. I drive a Prius. Why can't you? And it was like, that has no place in a courtroom, especially.
There's
but
no
that's
way
what
of
was said.
winning in that way.
No.
Double-sided.
I want to say.
Well, it's 2 against 1, and it's the police's word, and it's now the courtroom's word against yours, which, that gentleman came prepared with his evidence, and how come he felt it was just unfair treatment?
Yeah.
Which I think the entire community felt it was unfair treatment. It was a fully stock car from Porsche. There was nothing done to it. But VPD would say to him, you're not allowed to open up the exhaust with the little sport button. You're not allowed to drive it like that. And he was like, this is a factory feature.
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean it's not allowed to drive like
meant
that?
for.
That's he's only for off-road purposes. Like, sorry, that's not written anywhere when you purchase a car that this button is only for
the
track
fact that it's
purposes.
sold to you means that it's legal. Right?
And the thing is, it is legal. But what
Yeah.
you mentioned there is
Like,
the gray area.
from a dealer at least.
Yeah, is the gray
There
area.
is another very, very, very big gray area that I'm really not happy with that I want to touch on. If we're going to that
Yeah, go ahead.
So in October last year, I got my license taken first as a speed. Now, at the time, I wasn't familiar with the dispute process or how speed measurement works. Kind of similar to what you mentioned in your situation at the start. But I didn't know. I didn't even know if the ticket was valid. I didn't even know if I was actually going that fast. But anyway, the main thing here is I was on my end, and I got 1 ticket for 3 points. It was excessive, but it's still 3 points. The point number doesn't change based on the speed, which I think is kind of silly. Why have the system at all then, right? But you get 1 ticket on your end.
More points is better, right?
High score. Yeah. Nab all the speed cameras across the strip of downtown.
Yeah.
Get the high score. My favorite. No, but there is a line that says in the MVA, like legally, it's part of our country's legislature that says, if in the opinion of the superintendent of motor vehicles, your driving record is unsatisfactory, the superintendent of motor vehicles or anyone authorized to operate on his or her behalf is allowed to suspend your license. Period. That's what it says. You can actually paste like a screenshot of the MVA, like on the video here if you want. It's literally what it says, almost word for word. And I really don't think that's okay, because one thing that they really fail to do is they don't really tell you what you get as a result of being caught speeding or something. On one hand, if you're gonna speed, that stuff happening to you is the cost of entry. Like, you have to deal with it, otherwise don't speed. It's one thing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think it really, really is unfair to have it that subjective. Like, I don't think that a law enacted in our country should have phrasing that says, in the opinion of X person. I really don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's lawful.
I don't think. I think if more people knew that it was so subjective to the officer's discretion, there would be a lot of people even aren't in the enthusiast scene that probably have an issue with it.
I feel like there's almost like an unspoken rule as to like a difference between what the law says and what police actually bother enforcing. Like we talked about earlier, how many people actually enforce the laws for like incorrectly using the left lane, for example?
I wish more.
That's one
You
thing.
got those
Yeah,
big
yeah.
stickers on your windshield that says "Move over."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we all need
I've
something like
I get
that.
seen a few of
one,
those.
it
Yeah.
has like an arrow.
The LED
Yeah,
one
yeah,
that says,
yeah.
"Hey,
It's
over to the
it's
side."
it's like backwards, so that like when you look at it
In the rear- yeah,
in
exactly.
your rear view,
It's
it
like
says it
ambulance
the right
rating.
way. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a few of those. It's yeah.
No, this like we can go down the rabbit hole here of like we said, what are traffic police for essentially besides generate revenue? Sadly, when you're driving down the highway and I see a police officer who's checking speed and he's hiding as much as possible behind a pole,
In a ghillie suit.
or he's in a suit. He's like, I've seen the homeless guy sitting there and he's actually checking speed. I'm like,
What?
okay, so what is your intention? You know, you're
I
trying
That's
to catch.
cheating the system.
What, and that's the thing. What value is he bringing to the community? Is going to frustrate and break a trust from every single person he pulls over to be like, I was going 10 over. I'm keeping up with traffic. They're like, I don't care. I also saw you looked at your phone for a split second. They'll be walking through traffic at a red light, checking to see if anyone's on their phone. It's
Yeah, I've
like,
seen that.
it's like, listen, I get it. Sometimes the light goes green and I have to give a little honk to someone because he's looking down. He waves. He's like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, no big deal to me. Just go ahead.
And that can be on like the air vent mount. You're looking at it for 3 seconds. It goes green, and you're not even touching it or
What-
looking down on your lap or whatever.
That's sort of the point I mentioned a while ago with like, you know, no harm, no foul. Like, well, like if someone's gonna sit at a green for an extra 2 seconds, it's not life or death for you if you're behind him.
But it's sadly, what the view is to the officer who's catching this person doing such a senseless crime.
Yeah.
Is that really a crime? Or rather, if you're an officer, right? You've gone through all the training, you've done everything. You want to become a corporal, like you want to get to captain. It's like I really want to provide my community with a service, help protect, do it from that level. Because honestly, a lot of people go into depot at RCMP training because they want to provide their community a service. They want to wear the badge with honor. They want to help, and that you get assigned to traffic, and you're like, your job is to make sure the roads are safe. And if you don't hit this quota of tickets, we're going to have a talk. You're going to be in a situation.
Yeah.
Apparently, from what they've said, they don't have quotas. Apparently.
I know
Allegedly.
there is, because you'll get talking to. How would you take that?
I mean, for me, that wouldn't be a good thing to do. Just based on my mindset of having that in between. Okay, he's going 10 over, but then having the perspective of I need to say they do have a quota, or even if they don't, keep the road safe or pretty much do your job. But I also got to bring up the perspective of the officer. If that's what he's been trained to do for X amount of time, then that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So it's just, do you have to switch their training to have that? Okay, you're human, I'm human, sort of thing, or what's that balance between
I think
us being not aggressive, but like just doing our hobby and them accepting that? I mean, if a guy's going 190 down the road, okay,
Listen, it's
there's
his
an
fault.
example, yeah.
That's not cool.
It's fair game. It's fair game. What I do think is to answer your question, like where do we, what do we implement to, solve the problem? Again, I think really trying to hold the officers accountable is really important because there's currently
Going to court is the only option.
Yeah,
really
but
have.
there's it's such a massive pain to go through the court for like a VI or something like that. Like you wait a year for court date, you don't even get reimbursed for towing or anything. I mean,
nothing gets reimbursed.
Eventually.
Your basic
Yeah.
goal is to try and make
And
a
like,
statement, which
if you get pulled over and have nothing modded in your car, you pay the $200 or whatever. You take it to the shop. They say, okay, there's absolutely nothing here of concern. You're free to go. They do no work. They confirm your car is fine to drive on the road. You're out $200. There's no recourse for you.
no,
Besides going through court, and then waiting.
They're not going to
a year.
reimburse.
Yeah.
So it's a long
yeah,
shot, but
yeah, like it's ridiculous. I don't think that okay. It was just like my sort of view on cops in general and interactions with police during traffic stops. You can have an interaction with any one person, like within a span of 10 seconds, that has the potential to change your life forever, right? That alone on its own is pretty big, but I think that sort of gets a lot more interesting when a cop is in the mix, because the cop now has essentially privilege to do a lot more than any other person could in that situation. So being pulled over, you have that one interaction. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you have that one interaction with the cop that could very well define a lot of things for you in the future. Say, for example, he takes your license for something that, like, you know,
It causes a bad taste in your mouth. I
think that giving people the power, you know, cops the power to do that, it's fine. I mean, like, we need that. We need functional police to have a functional society. That's okay.
Agreed.
But
There's no defund police here, guys.
Yeah,
Just to be
for
clear,
sure.
we're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
defunding police.
Of course. Just my view on that is, like, that's a lot of responsibility. That's you're giving these people a lot of power. So, like, we really need to hold them accountable for this, because
I will say, when I was at the RCMP, there are plenty of traffic members who I would say do the wrong thing. They are in traffic because they just sadly enjoy finding things and giving tickets.
it sort of goes
And
back to
there's-
what you said about, like, respecting the badge.
Yeah,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
they. I won't comment on them too much, but there are so many general duty, different, basically members in different areas that are nothing to do with traffic that do not like any highway patrol officer or traffic member, because they themselves will be driving 10 over and it should be perfect fine, and they'll get a ticket from their fellow officer, even after saying, like, "Hey, I'm an officer with you. Like, we're driving 10 over." They're just like, "I don't care. You're over the speed limit. You can't get out of this with the badge." It is very.
Some people
it's
are very black and
forceful.
white like that. Some people.
Yeah. So I appreciate the time, guys. Alex, Rylan, this has been a great chat. We've got a lot more to talk about. Maybe we'll continue it. If you guys have any questions, any thoughts on this topic, you know, drop it in the comments below. Send us an email. Hit us on Instagram. We'll see you on CRU. We'll make some events about this.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate
that was
it.
fun. Thanks.
We'll see you next time on the CRU podcast, a voice for the enthusiast. We'll develop this out. If you want to be on a podcast, send me a message. You know how to get a hold of me. We'll talk soon, everyone. Thank you.